shot went off, I thought it was just somebody playing a prank with an M80. Immediately, I looked at him and he continued shooting.
I mean, he was shooting everything.
The shots kept going and going and going.
One person advising there's a subject inside shooting.
He just kept firing. I ran out the front door. I hear chairs being thrown out the window.
That's how we were able to get out. They broke the window.
We got multiple people down. We need a lot of ambulances.
And we did just get the news that he was one of the 11 that were hit and killed last night.
Southern California is grieving tonight after a mass shooting in Thousand Oaks. A gunman opened fire in a bar that was hosting a college night. He killed 12 people before turning the gun on himself.
It all happened last night, and less than 24 hours later, the pain and terror is still fresh in the tight community.
We got multiple people down. We need a lot of ambulances.
The town Thousand Oaks is typically known for being a quiet area, but at 11 last night, law enforcement got the call about the shooting. Officials say the gunman targeted Borderline Bar and Grill, a bar known for hosting college students. He threw in smoke bombs first before he started shooting. Many say the reason they survived was because of off-duty responders who were there also at the bar.
It was a normal Wednesday. We were at the bar, having fun, dancing, and then all of a sudden you hear like the bang bang of the gunshots, and it just started going crazy.
I watched one of my friends throw a stool through the window, and then a couple more of us threw stools through the windows, and we got everyone together and pushed as many people out of that window as we could.
Starting early this morning, victims' families started to get notified. Officials say the gunman, 28-year-old Ian David Long, was an ex-Marine. Police obtained a search warrant and have gone through Long's home. They have said he may have suffered from PTSD.
We've had crews in Thousand Oaks since early this morning to cover this shooting.
Our reporters have been speaking to law enforcement and victims all day today, and that's where we find Eyewitness News reporter Jeff Platt. Jeff?
Dave, Rochelle, emotions still running high here in Thousand Oaks, where victims and loved ones are just trying to make sense of last night's senseless tragedy. I was here earlier at the scene with our own Claudette Stefania, who spent the day speaking with people who were here at the scene when all of this was happening, and you could see police are still here. She spent her day speaking with survivors and the families of the victims.
In Thousand Oaks, just off Moore Park Road, an active investigation is in motion. But for the families of the victims, their lives are frozen still.
I love you, son. Cody was the big brother that my kids need. I have a daughter coming on the 29th of this month that he was so excited to have his first sister and not... now she'll never know. Oh.
And as he processes his own pain, he doesn't even know how to help others struggling with the same level of loss.
I don't know what to tell to the other people. I don't know how to console or what to say to the other people that are going to be going through the same situation as I am. I am so sorry for their loss as well. I am speechless and heartbroken.
A gunman opened fire in Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks Wednesday night. Witnesses remember the sound of gunshots well, and one witness saw the gunman continuing to fire.
I saw him point to the back of the cash register, and he just kept firing.
And one hero sprung into action, compelled to save lives where possible.
We got everyone together and pushed as many people out of that window as we could until there was just 3 or 4 of us left.
The sheriff's office will spend the next several days piecing through evidence. But for the friends and families of the victims, the pain of last night's loss will last a lifetime.
And one of the victims with possibly the largest family imaginable, one of Thousand Oaks' finest, a sheriff sergeant who was honored very quickly after this happened as the entire city came to a standstill. Sergeant Ron Healis was escorted by a motorcade from the hospital. He was the first officer on scene at the Borderline Bar and Grill, and he was killed in a shootout, shot multiple times, was in there until he was pulled out by a CHP. He was a 29-year veteran of the Sheriff's Department, and his colleagues referred to him as a gentle soul who was considering retiring at the end of this year. He leaves behind a wife and a son. And of course, this entire city grieving tonight, many of them meeting at a vigil scheduled for 6 o'clock in the evening. However, the vigil started far before that and ended far after, as people just couldn't help themselves and needed to pray as soon as possible for as long as possible.
I don't really know what to feel right now. It's more shock than anything else.
An hour before the vigil, 5 minutes after the vigil started, and after the vigil was over,
You are good, Lord.
prayer circles took over the Civic Center lawn as the Thousand Oaks community sought strength.
Are we afraid? Of course. And it's just difficult to rationalize something like this happening, especially in our own backyard.
They sought answers.
Wondering what more you could have done just kind of eats you alive, I guess.
And they sought hope for the souls of the 12 people killed at Borderline Bar.
I hope they're all still line dancing up there.
Dancing their hearts out.
Sorry.
Now they'll seek normalcy, or as close as they can get.
Noelle, when I go into church tonight, she's not going to be standing at that door. Or Tell, when I go back to Borderline, he's not going to be standing security guard. Or Christina, she's not going to be at that register anymore. Or Cody, you know, he's not going to be being a goofball and having good times, you know.
As hard as it is, as shocked as they are, as afraid as they may be, together this community is strong, stronger than strong.
You know, we're Borderline strong. We're not going to stop going. We're going to walk right through those doors, and however long it takes to rebuild that place, and we're going to make it happen.
And that sentiment resonating throughout this entire community, Borderline strong, Thousand Oaks strong, as they attempt to pick up the pieces and move forward together with strength, hoping that they can put this senseless tragedy behind them. Dave, Rochelle, it's been a very emotionally exhausting day for everyone involved out here, and you can see it on their faces. They're just looking for something to help them get to tomorrow.
Well, I can see it on your face too, Jeff. What was the most moving part that you saw tonight?
For me, Rochelle, I have to say, actually going in the vigil, you heard throughout that piece a woman singing Amazing Grace. Everyone stood, and this was an auditorium, this was a theater meant for live performances, and every seat had a candle in it. As they all stood, they all sang together, and one young woman just became so overcome with emotion that she was crying so audibly that the entire theater could hear it. And really, in that moment, you just kind of sensed that all the pain being felt in this entire community was just channeled through that one young woman. And that was incredibly moving, and not something you see every day, and something that a lot of people hope to never see any day. And it's something that I'm sure will stick with everyone who was at that vigil.
I'm sure it will. Yeah, it'll take a lot of time to heal there. Thank you, Jeff.
Meanwhile, for one large group of people inside the Borderline Bar last night, this was actually the second narrow escape from a mass shooting. Many also survived the attack in Las Vegas that killed 58 people there.
Eyewitness News reporter Lexi Wilson explains the shockwaves this tragedy is sending through the country music community. Lexi?
Even Rochelle, it's something nobody should go through once, let alone twice. But last night, many people at Borderline experienced their second mass shooting.
My son was in Las Vegas with a lot of his friends, and he came home. He didn't come home last night.
Susan Orfanos lost her son, Telemakis Orfanos. He was one of the 12 people killed in the Borderline Bar shooting. He was also a survivor of the Las Vegas shooting.
I don't want prayers. I don't want thoughts. I want gun control, and I hope to God nobody else sends me any more prayers. I want gun control.
From the Las Vegas shooting to the borderline shooting, last night many were survivors of both. The country world hit with two unbelievable tragedies.
Unfortunately, it's the second time in about a year and a month that this has happened.
Just last year, Nicholas Champion fled for his life. He says the country bar was a place Route 91 survivors would meet up and heal from the trauma.
The thing for us, we all are a big family, and unfortunately, this family got hit twice.
And now for some of them, they belong to a new group, a group of survivors of two mass shootings.
And all day I've been talking with local Route 91 survivors. None of them wanted to speak with me on camera, as you can imagine. They told me today was just too emotional and that they wanted to be with their family and friends. Reporting live in studio, Lexi Wilson, Eyewitness News.
And in response to the shooting, hundreds volunteered to give blood for those survivors. Officials say they needed so much blood it requires a fixed facility, not just mobile blood banks. So people came there, they brought snacks, pizza, donuts, fruit and water for everyone who was in line there waiting. Many said that they waited 3 or more hours to give blood and to try and give back to their community in this terrible time of need.
Here's a look at where that shooting took place. Hours later, another devastating incident, believe it or not, a few miles away, the Hill Fire. It forced 1,200 homes to be evacuated. You're looking at a live picture from that from a chopper of that fire right now. 1,200 homes evacuated. It started burning around 2 o'clock this afternoon. Officials say hundreds of structures have been destroyed. It's burned around 10,000 acres so far. Cal State Channel Islands is going to be closed tomorrow because of the Hill Fire and because of the air quality on the campus.
And burning up north is the fast-moving Camp Fire. CAL FIRE says tonight it is more than 20,000 acres in size. It's burning in Butte County, some 90 miles north of Sacramento. Sheriff's officials say evacuation orders are in place for the entire town of Paradise. About 27,000 people live in that town. The National Weather Service says ongoing drought conditions, strong winds, and low humidity are making for very dangerous fire conditions.
And those fire conditions will continue. Let's take a look at where those fires are right now on fog imagery. The Hill Fire, you see it to the south, but there's another part of it. It's called the Woolsey Fire. It's smaller, but it's just to the east, so it's actually almost a complex there. The Mountaineer Fire off to the north brought some smoke into Kern County, but look at the Camp Fire. This is the big one. You can see by that big black swash there that it is a huge fire. We'll talk more about that in the main weather coming up in a few minutes. 50 degrees right now. We have a fire weather warning continuing in the Kern County mountains and, of course, areas to the north and south of us. Hard freeze warning then. That'll be the next big thing Saturday and Sunday morning. And most of northern California, it is a fire weather warning. Temperatures have already dropped into the mid-40s in Delano and Buttonwillow, mid-50s otherwise here in town. It is breezy up the mountains, still 51 degrees in Tehachapi, actually warmer there than it is in Bakersfield right now. The dew points and the humidity is very low. You can see the winds now out of the east at 29 in Gorman, gusting still to 47 miles per hour, fanning the flames down to the south. So it'll be windy south end of the valley. Winds at the base of the Grapevine have kicked up to 40 miles per hour now out of the south, so we did get that here. And lows around 44 in the morning. In the Kern County mountains, windy with fire weather continuing through the night, temperatures dropping into the 30s. And the Kern River Valley will also see windy fire weather continuing there too, with temperatures dropping to about 40 degrees. Lots going on. It's been a very tumultuous day in many ways, especially in the weather. We'll talk more about the weather and the fires and what's to come, coming up in just a few minutes. David Rochelle, back to you.
And some more bad news, a heartbreaking update to a story that we've been following now for years. 10-year-old Braden Eidenschink died yesterday evening, 4 weeks after receiving a new heart. Eyewitness News reporter Emma Goss has more on Braden and his brave heart.
10-year-old Braden Eidenschink was a fighter. His mom, Brenda, nicknamed him the comeback kid. Born with a faulty aortic valve, Braden overcame life-threatening heart conditions time and again and had a community of support behind him.
I get choked up at times, but this is what it's all about. It ain't about racing, it's about life.
Last week, over 400 people donated blood in his name.
50 of those were brand new donors who didn't even know this young man. They've all been watching this journey for quite some time.
Over 15,000 people follow his journey on the Facebook page Braden's Brave Heart. Many of them from Kern County and many more from across the world.
They have opened their lives and shared their journey with the entire community, people that don't even know him, and it just resonated.
Hey, please!
We first met Braden in 2014 when he was healthy enough to go to school.
Going to school is huge. That's something we didn't think would ever happen again.
But he needed a new heart and wound up at the Lucille Packard Children's Hospital in Palo Alto earlier this summer. The heart he waited over 4 years for finally came just 4 weeks ago. But not long after, his organs went into failure and he was put on life support. Then last week, his mom shared this update on Facebook.
So ultimately yesterday we got news that this heart is not waking up and it is not recovering.
Braden passed away peacefully on Wednesday evening at 7:17.
He was always happy for just to wake up every day and to see the faces of those that surround him with love. He knew that it was his journey and he was fighting the best battle he could fight.
In Bakersfield, Emma Goss, Eyewitness News.
Still ahead here tonight, coming up, the campfire continues to grow up in Northern California. We'll have a live report from where the crews are battling the flames tonight.
And we're learning more tonight on the Thousand Oaks gunman and how his role in the military may have triggered a motive.
And the migrant caravan rests in Mexico City before on its stop before it comes to the U.S. The new demands they're making before the final stretch.
And in addition to the gusty winds, the wildfires, and the cold temperatures coming up, we actually had an earthquake in the South Valley just a little while ago. Did you feel it? We'll tell you about that and the rest of the weather.
Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team has reportedly reached a key point in its investigation of possible ties between Russia and President Trump. Multiple sources are saying the Special Counsel's team is writing its final report now. In addition to probing Russia's election meddling, Mueller also examining whether members of President Trump's campaign colluded with Moscow and whether Trump sought to obstruct justice after he learned of the investigation's existence last year.
Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg fractured three ribs after a fall yesterday evening. This morning she was admitted to George Washington University Hospital. According to the Supreme Court spokesperson, Ginsburg was in her office at the court when she fell. The 85-year-old has been a justice on the High Court since 1993.
Migrant caravan is regrouping in Mexico City tonight before making a final push to the U.S. border. Mexico City, more than 600 miles from the nearest port of entry in Texas. 5,000 migrants are resting before making the last stretch. They're now demanding bus transportation and escorts to get them to the U.S. border. Mexico is still offering the migrants asylum there in that country. 3,000 have so far accepted that.
The DACA program is back in the headlines today. Current recipients will continue to receive protections from the Obama-era program. Today, a federal appeals court upheld a ruling protecting the DACA program. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals agreed with the lower court's ruling, stopping the Trump administration from ending it. DACA protects undocumented immigrants who came to the U.S. as children from deportation. White House lawyers have already asked the Supreme Court to step in and review the case.
Coming up here, the investigation into the Thousand Oaks gunman. Neighbors explain why they weren't surprised he opened fire at a crowd of people.
And local veterans comment on that mass shooting, the bigger conversation it's putting a spotlight on.
A fire known as the Camp Fire is ripping through Butte County tonight up in Northern California, forcing thousands from their homes.
This comes 2 months after the massive Carr Fire burned nearly 250,000 acres, only 75 miles away. Reporter Kristen Edwards from our sister station in Reno shows us how crews are battling the flames on the ground. Good evening, Kristen.
Dave and Rochelle, dozens of engines and crews have been coming here to Butte College to get their marching orders, and then they are heading back out to battle those flames that have been ravaging the area. What started as a 200-acre fire has exploded into a massive 20,000-acre fire in 14 hours.
This fire moved very, very quickly, and we had to move fast to get as many people out of there as we possibly could.
The Butte County Sheriff says tens of thousands have evacuated. Denise Neal says she was one of them. Her as flames tore through the grasses behind us. Her home a couple hundred yards away.
We're not going anywhere, she's staying. The house is going